Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and a little while ago I did a video about the Buck 110, and my original premise was, did this stifle innovation? And on the positive side, it might have been because it was so successful. But that also caught the attention of Buck, and they sent me their two new slim versions of the 110 and the 112, or as I know them, the Folding Hunter and the Ranger. Now let's go to that Folding Hunter name. The Folding Hunter was state of the art. I hear a lot of people say Buck fixed the problems. Look at this new design they've got. They fixed the steel, they fixed the thickness, they added the pocket clip. I mean, it's fixed. And my premise is no, it's not fixed, because nothing was wrong with this one. It is state of the art for its time. You can't judge the past by the future. And so this one, I didn't see any problems. I mean, it was what it was. That's just how knives were back then. And you might say, well, we didn't have a chunk of stone, you know, that we chipped into a knife, or it wasn't some old high carbon steel that just rusted instantly on. I mean, this was a high-tech handle with a fitted wood grip. Think about those days. And for you younger guys, you weren't there. You didn't know what it was like when this was what you dreamed about, because there weren't 1,500 different knives. Instead, what do we have for materials? We had bone and antler. And in this case, this Ruana, we had aluminum. We had leather washers like this back here. There wasn't carbon fiber and G10 and titanium. You know, there was wood and stag and leather. There were natural organic fibers. But Buck has upgraded, if I can use that word, the 110 idea. So what they've done is they've come out with a slimmer version. If you take a closer look at this, I'm going to fold up one of these. I'll use my original one, 1970s vintage style. But if you look at the thickness here, and I'll line up a 112 and a 110 here because they're about the same thickness. You can see, yeah, it's about half, a little less than half as thick. They've also really taken the steel to the next level. Now Buck, one of the things is, if you hear a steel number, 420, 440, you know, is the 420 HC any good? I mean, gosh, by today's standards, that's like saying, well, I don't know, it's like a, you know, some basic thing that, you know, might be used in cheap knives. Well, at the time, it wasn't an expensive steel, it was a proven steel. And the other thing with the 420 HC is they have nailed the heat treat. They knew what they were doing. So they dialed in one specific steel. And maybe it wasn't as fancy as some of the other steels that were coming out. You know, fancy things like AUS 8, AUS 8 or something else. Instead, they were continuing with a proven steel and a hollow grind, which is another thing. You know, they kept that. I mean, hollow grinds have been around forever. They kept that long Bowie-esque or buoy-esque shape with the swedge at the top up here. They came up, you know, with this design as far as the straight parallel lines of the wood inlay, the rivet pattern, the back lock, which is a proven solid lock. It's, by today's standards, I think it's kind of primitive and a little bit harder to use because we know what is possible. That's because we are in the future. At the time, this was state of the art, and there's nothing wrong with that. So unless you're a hipster trying to gain some street cred and being able to flex something old, like you have, you know, vintage clothes and your vintage motorcycle and your, you know, your BMW 2002 or something, what Buck has done is that they have taken a conventional Buck design, you know, the 110 design, and modernized it to what our expectations are today. Now, there is a problem, though, and that is many people, like myself, have an affinity towards this. We grew up with this. It's like a Craftsman screwdriver, a Ruger 1022, you know, a bolt action Mauser rifle. It just is something, You know, maybe a Eureka tent or a Slumberjack sleeping bag. You know, I could name all kinds of old brands. Coleman lanterns, Coleman stoves. That's just where a lot of our adventures, you know, were equipped, and we had an affinity towards it. It meant something to us. It got us through the adventure or joined us on that adventure, which is exactly why I still have this knife. Now, by going to a more modern one, you're also trying to tap into that affinity that the older crowd probably has. So it's going to be a little bit tough, because anyone born, say, within the last, I don't know, 2.5 decades might not know much about this. Maybe they've seen one. It doesn't mean that much to them. Just like, you know, my first vehicle was a 1970 Toyota Land Cruiser, an FJ40. And I loved that thing. 3 on the tree. I mean, a little straight 6. It was amazing. It was like driving a tractor around. I got rid of it, of course, because I was foolish and I wanted something you could actually drive safely on the highway. But it turns out that it imprinted me. And every time I see one, I wonder, am I going to get another one of those? You know, and oddly, when people start pointing out features here, they point it out like it's problems. And like I look at an F-150, a Ford F-150, and think, you know, that's got problems. And it's like, are you sure? Or maybe you're just judging it. No, the first problem is it's not a Toyota. Well, that's not a fair comparison. I can't say, you know, the problem with this buck is it's not a Benchmade. Well, no, it's not, and it never will be. But also, it is a buck. And a buck knife was much like Klein pliers. These were known as Kleins. I grew up when a buck knife was often a folding knife versus, well, I don't have my very first knife I carried all over the place. I do have my second. Actually, I had to borrow it back because I've given it away. But this was the one that I carried as a kid. I love this thing. It's a Schrade Woodsman made in the USA, old timer. It was plastic, and I thought, okay, whatever. You know, I was used to bone, or, you know, even the buck had aluminum and plastic, or leather washers or something like that. So this was pretty modern, but you see why I like the knives that I do. You know, the full belly, the upswept tip, the thick spine. But I traded that. Actually, I didn't trade it in. I got this. This is in the 1980s. I switched to Kershaw in Japan. This is the 1030 TF, and this became my carry-around hunting knife. Wonderful little knife. And then I got a folding version of this, but it got gummed up pretty fast. Anyway, I had long since walked away from the classic 110 folding hunter as a hunting knife. There was new stuff out there, and the buck was still around with almost that Bowie blade that could have been 200 years old. Now it's back. And if you look at this, there's a couple of things I want you to notice. It's still made in the United States, and the Boss, that is the heat treatment. So they are still nailing the heat treatment, even though they're using MagnaCut steel. Now MagnaCut steel, it's like a super steel. Amazing. I have others, like this has appeared on my channel. This is my ZT Hinderer, and this guy, look at that, MagnaCut right there. This is the Benchmade I was carrying today, right there, the CLA. Look at that, MagnaCut. Actually, I was carrying this yesterday. What am I carrying today? Let me find it here in my pocket. Look at that. It is, because I was on the water, it is my Benchmade. And by the way, you have to get one of these style Benchmades, because they are on all of the billboards around Montana. Apparently they think that this is what we need in order to fly fish. But anyway, this is also right there, MagnaCut. Get it to focus. So I've got a bunch of different MagnaCut knives. MagnaCut and now the Buck 110. That's pretty cool. The pocket clip. Now you might look at it and say, well, yeah, they put a pocket clip on it. Well, maybe no small feat. First of all, it's a deep carry. It's only, you know, the preferred right hand for tip up. Fine with me. beautiful expression of these things. This is the 112. They also came out with a nickel silver bolster, or you know, the end piece there, slightly different color of the wood. Again, MagnaCut, Boss on the heat treatment. A little bit smaller. Now these do have some weight to them, but you know, are we all going after super light ones? That's actually what attracted me to this. This is under 3.5 ounces for a full auto. I mean, just, it's an outstanding knife. This was Benchmade's first composite or non-metallic handle or scaled auto knife, and they just nailed it. But I waited around until they upgraded it with a different handle color. They Cerakoted the pocket clip and then used MagnaCut with kind of that distressed blade. Look at that, the edge I got on that thing. I mean, it is just beautiful. But anyway, back to the bucks. I did the video earlier because I got this. This is a titanium version of a 110. It's the 560X, but if you look at it compared to the standard 110, very similar blade. And it's because I have an affinity to it. You know, it's not quite the tobacco industry imprinting on the youth, but it means that there's something about this that brought back memories and adventures and wonderful times. And now I see Buck has entered the realm, entered the room for the younger crowd, so they too now can enjoy what this knife means. It's not, I mean, we carry a lot of knives. They're essentially jewelry, you know, and you have to enjoy using them. People often on knife reviews talk about, you know, I cut up a bunch of cardboard. I don't remember cutting any cardboard in the 1970s. I'm not sure I cut any in the 1980s. I might have cut up moving boxes in the 1990s, or maybe not. In the 2000s, maybe that's when I started cutting up cardboard and opening packages. We used to use knives for other things, like actually cutting rope. Not a nylon rope, but maybe hemp rope, you know, organic fibers. That's what we did. We gutted fish. We, you know, dressed deer. We basically used it for everything. And now, I imagine there's going to be people who are going to say, you know what, I just want to enjoy that kind of a knife that takes 2 hands to open and 2 hands to close, and has that classic look that grandpa may have had, or great-grandpa, or dad. But I can carry it around, and I don't have to worry about a steel that's, you know, was state-of-the-art in the 1960s. And I've got wood. Maybe wood will make a comeback because we'll get so tired of, you know, the composites. But anyway, there it is. I'll come back to these, but Buck really nailed it. I'm glad to see they didn't give up on us or on the knife designs. Let me know your thoughts. And with that, Doc out.